Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm so glad you're joining me for this first week of Advent. Advent is this beautiful season where we celebrate the birth of Jesus, and over the course of the month of December, we're really going to prepare our hearts to understand how profound it is that the Savior of the world, the Son of God, was born in a smelly barn to a young woman 2,000 years ago. The devotional that we're using to practice this month is Naptime Diaries Make Room Devotional. It just has short sections each day for you to read and to inspire thought and prayer and a little bit more preparation in your hearts. I would really encourage you to just draw and write all over this devotional. There's lots of space in the margins and at the end of each week for you to do that. So really use this as a guidebook to help you go deeper into the spirit of Advent this month. The theme of the first week of Advent in this devotional is retreat. Now, retreat is something that Jesus was very familiar with, and all the Gospels talk a lot about how Jesus would leave the crowds of people who were hungry for his attention, who needed his healing, who needed him to speak life into them. But he often left those crowds, and even his close friends, to be alone with the Father. So if this is something that Jesus did, I think it's probably a good idea that we should incorporate that into our lives today. And really the importance of retreat is that it helps us remember what's actually important in the day-to-day. And especially in this season, we can get so caught up in the gifts and the cookies and the parties and everything else going on, we forget what's really important. And that's the Father, being close to the Father and walking in his love and his life. So that's what we're going to focus on as we practice today. This is going to be a very gentle yoga practice, but if you do have a blanket or a towel, I would encourage you to grab that now and just slide it under your hips as we practice today. It's going to help you create a little bit more space and more room. Also, if you have a yoga strap or a tie or a scarf, something that's thin and long that you can grab onto easily, I would encourage you to get that now as well. Lastly, music is just a great way to deepen your yoga practice, and I say this every week, so if you have a favorite worship playlist, I would encourage you to play it while you practice. If you're looking for some new music, there's a link to my Spotify channel below that has a playlist that I designed just for the month of Advent. So grab your props, turn on some music, and let's do some yoga. We're going to start lying down on our backs with our knees bent and our arms out to the side. Our palms are open and our eyes are closed. It's hard to retreat into the presence of God when our minds are running a million miles an hour and we're thinking of what we have to do today and worrying about whether we're even doing this whole yoga thing right, unsure of really how to be in the presence of God. So we're going to spend these first few minutes just focusing on our breathing. This in itself might be challenging because we've never really considered how we're breathing before. It's just something that we naturally do without any thought attached to it. But in the practice of yoga and really in our lives in general, our breath has the power to transform our emotional state, help us tackle new challenges, and really remind us just to stay present. So without changing anything, just notice what parts of your torso start to move as you breathe. Notice how satisfying each breath is. Are you taking lots of short and shallow breaths? Do you feel nourished? Maybe your torso isn't even moving and it's just that space in your upper chest. For a lot of us, we breathe like this all day long and we wonder why we always feel totally frazzled and stressed out. So I want you to start to deepen your breath and really recruit your entire torso in this process to really feel a full inhale and a conscious full exhale. So place both hands on your low belly just above your pubic bone and direct your inhale into this space so that you feel your hands rise and fall with each breath. We're inhaling and we're exhaling through our nose here. Now move your hands to your upper chest, just below your collarbone. And continuing to breathe in your low belly, begin to also feel your upper chest rise and fill with air, and then sink heavily down into the mat as you exhale. Being gentle as you breathe, careful not to restrict your throat or tense your neck and shoulders. This is just a natural tendency that we have to try and really get this full expansive breath, but we don't want to become so full that we constrict ourselves. Good. Once you move this breath into your low belly and upper chest, see if you can awaken the entire back of your body. As much as you can, breathe into that back body and feel how it really just balloons with each breath and then deflates with each exhale. This isn't something that necessarily comes consciously for us. We always think of just filling up our belly with air, but let's see if you can fill up your entire torso, front and back, with each new breath. We inhale to bring oxygen, this life-sustaining chemical, into our body, and we exhale to release carbon dioxide. But without exhaling completely, excess carbon dioxide, which is a known stressor to our nervous system, remains in our lungs. And our body does this thing where it detects that there's too much carbon dioxide and not enough oxygen. So to counteract that, it asks for more oxygen by inhaling. But since the lungs are still partially filled with carbon dioxide, we can't get as much oxygen in there. So we set this cycle in motion where we keep inhaling for more oxygen, but we can't get enough of it because our lungs haven't been properly emptied. Thus, we have shallow breathing, we hold our breaths, we never feel like we can take a big, full inhale and exhale. And we feel stressed. And we feel like we just can't rid our body of that feeling of stress. Now that we've begun to recruit our entire torso in our breathing, we're going to do one simple breathing exercise called 3-part breathing. So I want you to keep one hand on your chest and move the other one down to your belly. And in your mind, I want you to picture a wave, like an ocean wave. And as you inhale, first feel your low belly rise, and then just like a wave, feel that breath roll up your torso, expanding your ribs and your back body, and then finally filling your upper chest, holding just for a second at the top, and then exhaling first in your chest, feeling it roll back down your ribs, and finally your lower belly sinking into the mat. Continue to breathe like this on your own breath, feeling the sensation of your breath just like a wave rolling up your body and back down your body. Pausing at the top for just a moment and seeing if you can really lengthen your exhales. What we're working towards here is making our exhales twice as long as our inhales. So maybe you begin to count to just help you keep track of how long each inhale is and help you really stretch out those exhales. Again, not overly forcing this, but just being gentle. Job 33:4 says, "The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life." When we draw our attention to our breath like this, we're not just taking advantage of some nice stress-relieving technique, but we're connecting with the Almighty. We're reminding ourselves that we're made in His image, that we're children of God, that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. After your next exhale, you can begin to just breathe normally. And before we move into some gentle yoga poses, I want you to pray, either just silently or out loud if you're alone, and thank God for His breath in your lungs. And then ask Him, what is one thing that you need to let go of that isn't serving you any longer, that's keeping you back from living a full life, from really being fully present in this beautiful season of Advent? Maybe it's something tangible, like you signed up to do something, but if you're really honest with yourself, you just don't have the capacity to do it and you need to say no. Or maybe it's something intangible, like a belief we have about ourselves that isn't right or noble or true or good. As we move through the rest of our practice today and as you go through this week, I want you to really ask God to help you fully exhale and really surrender what isn't serving you and inhale the true and right and life-giving promises of God. Draw your knees into your chest and press yourself or roll yourself up to a seated position. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears and down your spine, breathing fully as you do this a couple more times. As you melt those shoulders down your spine, feel an opening across your chest. take your right ear and lower it down to your right shoulder, feeling length all along the left side of your neck. You can take your left hand and place it on the mat, or even tuck it behind your low back here to really accentuate that stretch. Breathing into these tight places. Come back to center, take your left ear and lower it towards your left shoulder. Feeling a release along the right side of your neck here. Once again, taking your right hand to the mat or behind your back to deepen that stretch. Remembering when that something feels uncomfortable, we tend to constrict our breathing. So let's be really conscious of deepening and lengthening our breath here. Come back to center. Take your right arm out to the side. On an inhale, lift your left arm up and bend over to the right side, stretching out all along your left side body, rooting that left hip down into the mat to find an opening in your hip. Come back to center. Take your left arm out to the side, your right arm up and over, lengthening from fingertip to sit bone. Good. Come back to center. On an inhale, take your arms at 290-degree angles, open them out to the side like a cactus, breathing into an open chest, arching your spine. And then on an exhale, draw your palms together, really round your spine, draw your belly in, tuck your chin to your chest, exhaling fully here. Inhale, opening back up. We're coming into just a seated cow pose here. We're arching our upper spine, opening across our heart, lengthening through our neck, and then exhaling, rounding, squeezing all that breath out, feeling a stretch in between our shoulder blades. And your own breath, move through about 3 or 4 more of these movements here. A seated cow pose, and then a seated cat pose. Warming up our spine, connecting our breath to our movement. After your next exhale, release your hands, come back to center. Good. On your next inhale, I want you to take your right arm behind you, your left hand over to your right knee, and twist gently over to the right side. On every inhale, I want you to lengthen your spine. So think about drawing your tailbone down to the mat and the crown of your head to the ceiling. And every exhale, I want you to think about twisting a little bit more deeply over to the right side. Remembering to breathe here. It's a bit harder because we're constricting our lungs just a little bit. But use your breath to help you find space and length in your spine and depth in this twist. Come back to center and let's switch sides. Left hand behind your back, right arm on your left knee. Inhale to grow tall and exhale to twist more deeply. Drawing your shoulders away from your ears, letting go of any tension in your neck. Beautiful. Release and come back to center. I want you to take the soles of your feet now and draw them together. We're going to come to bound angle pose. And I want you to, keeping the soles of your feet together, draw your heels towards your hips as close as you can so that your knees aren't popping way up and you feel this discomfort in your hips. So they can be really close to your hips or farther away depending on your range of motion here. I want you to take your hands and wrap them around your ankles or around the outsides of your feet. And on an inhale, I want you to grow tall, just like we did in our seated twists, right? Weighting our hip bones, our sit bones down into the mat, drawing the crown of our head up to the ceiling, engaging our core, drawing our ribs in but opening across our heart. And then on an exhale, begin to bend your elbows and lengthen your spine forward, not rounding here and pulling on your low spine, but just gently folding forward to whatever degree you can go to feel an opening in your hips rather than a rounding and a crunching in your spine. Not forcing your knees down here, but think about releasing the heads of your thigh bones towards the floor. And when you do this first, then your knees will follow. It's this tension of surrender and stretching. Breathing deeply here. Good. Slowly come back up to center. Extend your left leg long in front of you and draw the sole of your right foot into the inner thigh of your left leg. Really root down evenly through both sit bones here, lengthening your tailbone into the mat. Draw your arms up overhead and feel your shoulders just melt away from your ears, growing long through both sides of your body. Feel your thighs press down into the mat as you breathe fully here. And then on your next inhale, gently begin to fold forward, reaching for your left foot, or if you have a strap, you can wrap it around the ball of your foot here and grab onto both ends of that strap, being careful not to round your spine. Once again, we're not jutting our ribs up, but we're drawing our ribs in, but feeling an opening across our heart, pressing our entire left leg from our heel to our thigh bone, down into the mat. As you inhale, draw your abdomen in and your chest forward, and as you exhale, begin to fold more deeply. Finding depth in your stretch by bending your elbows rather than rounding your spine. Taking this time in this stretch to retreat, not forcing or performing, but retreating into the presence of God. Good, release your grasp and slowly begin to come back up and just switch sides. So let's extend our right leg out and draw the sole of your left foot into the inner thigh of your right foot. Once again, wiggling around so that you can find an equal weighting through both sit bones down into the mat. On an inhale, draw both arms up overhead, and we're going to grow long here on a few breaths. So as you inhale, root your tailbone down into the mat, lengthen your spine up so you feel new space, new growth in your spine. Your shoulders are sinking away from your ears. Your side bodies are growing long as they're being filled with breath. And then on an exhale, slowly begin to fold forward, grasping your foot or your strap, bending your elbows to create more depth. On your exhales, and on your inhales, drawing your belly in and your heart forward. Press that right heel all the way up to that right thigh bone deep into the mat here. Good. Slowly release and begin to come back up to center. Draw both knees into your chest and begin to roll all the way back down so that you're lying down on your mat once again. Our final pose for this practice is going to be pigeon pose on our back. So bending both knees, placing the soles of your feet on the mat, I want you to take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh. You can thread your arms underneath your right leg, grabbing onto the thigh of your left leg or the shin of your left leg. And think about pressing your right knee away from you as you draw your left thigh towards your face, flexing that right foot to protect your right knee.